Hey, what's up, guys? It's a green day today. Finally seen a little bit of a bounce. Good stuff. Man, I haven't been trading a whole lot, but I did go long yesterday, and I am sure glad I did. Didn't get the 6,500 bid, but I did okay. Average price was, what was that price here? 67.26 is what it says. So hey, not too shabby average price. So definitely in the green. Took a little bit of heat early on, but it was definitely an oversold bounce trade. So we'll see how this is gonna shape up. But just wanted to get us going on a live stream here today. Thanks for being here. Gonna give it a few minutes before we get started and let some more folks join the stream here. What's going on from Spain? Cool. Is this the reversal, or are we about to go in the hellhole? I'm going to cover that. I don't. It depends. Longer term charts are still rough. Certainly back to a little bit of a support level. 6Ks, I mean, mid 6Ks was kind of the next big support level. So that's what we were looking at. And going into the end of the year, right, we tend to see a little bit of this selling. There's a lot of fundamental issues, but the supply and all that. But I was hoping, I hate to say this, but I was hoping that the carnage would continue until after the new year, because I've been avoiding selling some stuff for tax reasons, but I want to sell that stuff so that I can accumulate some more longer term holds on the BTC side. So that's earmarked for some Bitcoin. So we'll see. It's kind of it's the timing thing, right? Do I wait? Is Bitcoin going to shoot up too much in the next 2 weeks to make it worth waiting? So we'll see, but we'll take a look at that. Longer term charts, certainly the trend is still in favor of the sellers. We'll look at some key support levels that we're watching here. Let me post a link for everybody. We're ready to rock. Oh, let's see what else we got on the line here. Oh, sorry to hear about that, Woozy. Looks like you got stopped out. Never fun, and that's just, yeah, there was a big shakeout today. So I just started looking at the charts again here in recent, just in the recent hour or two. Early this morning, I saw this big reversal wick happening here when I scanned the charts first thing in the morning. I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. Getting that little shakeout, big volume of the spike, and then I just said, all right, I'll come back to the charts later. And then I saw it, and I was like, whoa, here we are, up 8% or whatever it is on the day. Probably more than that if you consider the wick to wick. What is that? 12% move. So pretty nice there. We'll see how that one plays out, but good reversal, big shakeout, and unfortunately, I mean, that's just how it goes, man. It's tough, but you get those big shakeouts that take out the stops, undercut. If anybody was buying yesterday and was looking at this 65.50 level as kind of support, you get a big wick that just dumps straight to 6,400, massive reversal. Now, if you're playing trading conservative, putting the odds in your favor, yeah, you don't front run any of this. I was buying the dips yesterday because I was looking at some other longer term, oversold stuff, but that's all it was a dip buy. But if you wait for these signals, right, when you get that big bullish engulfing candle, I mean, that's a 1 hour chart, granted, but if you're looking at the shorter term time frames, that's a nice early signal there for a quick trade. Again, this is for a quicker trade. The longer term charts are still nowhere near, showing a massive bull signal or anything. But on the very short term time frames, this is the 1 hour view. There was a big reversal, nice bullish reversal candle, and that's played out nicely. Odds favor generally when you see a move like that you're going to see some more upside testing. If you wanted to be, sure, you would wait until it actually cleared some near term resistance, which it did there around 6,700, and then at that point, pretty good little squeeze to the upside. Nice to see that, and we tend to see that often in Bitcoin. I mean, if you go back here, you get those big spikes on volume off the lows. You get them back here, right? And you can tend to see some pretty good follow through. So will it turn into one of those? That's what I'm thinking it will, right? So if you remember a couple weeks back, we had that big reversal, and it kind of just drifted down into the weekend here, and then finally continued higher for another couple of days. And my target on that move, I remember trading that, was that back here? Yeah, about 7,800 or so. 7,700 was my target. It hit 7,800 on that, and it's just been drifting down ever since. I think it surprised a lot of people at how weak it's really been, but finally seeing a little bit more of a meaningful bounce. You saw a lot of choppy action back here, some wicks and all that good stuff, but we'll get to it here. So all right, let's zoom out here. Let's start from the top. We will get to the other names on the list here. I'm going to start with BTC. I always like to start with the daily view. Just it sets the tone, right? What's the broader trend? And if we look at the broader trend, there's a couple of things that are very quick and easy to point out here. If you look at the moving averages, I'm using a moving average pair, the 10 and the 22 EMA here. And the direction that they're going always tells you something. They're going lower. The 10 is below the 22. Price, for the most part, is just trading below those moving averages. So clearly, the longer trend, the daily trend, is still very much downward. And if we zoom out way more, looking at the bigger picture since the June peak, it's pretty much been lower lows and lower highs since that June top. Now, where was the big major support? I'm going to zoom out quite a bit here. If we look left here, going back to late last year, that 6K level that finally broke down, the top of that was around that 6,500 level. And if we go right, you can see that this is right where we're seeing a little bit of support stepping in here. Now, this has formed a double bottom technically on this most recent reversal on that daily chart. So if we zoom back into that time frame, let me move the chart for you guys. It might be easier to see here. We had a pretty good wick back in here, late November, followed by a decent rally, but again, that rally failed right at the 22 EMA. Another attempt there, another attempt there, just started to roll over, and here we are seeing another attempt at that exact same level with volume coming in. So volumes spiked on both of those attempts off those lows. Ultimately, if this is going to turn the trend, the longer trend, then you want to see this big resistance level taken out right here. So there's a lot of potential accumulation showing up here, a little bit of a battle going on, and so that's basically that same level that I've been watching here for the last couple of weeks. 7,600 is the first number, 7,800 is the next number for me. Getting above that would really start to show some positive daily chart action. That would also get price back above those declining moving averages, and at that point I'm guessing the 10 EMA wouldn't be too far behind in terms of getting a bullish crossover on the daily 10 EMA. That would also get it behind above this prior little dip back here. And then from there, there's plenty of levels to be going up as far as next target levels on the way up. The next big ones are basically the mid 8Ks, 84, 8,500, and then this 9K, 9,200 range is the next big one there. I'm seeing some comments on the divergences, and yes, there are some divergences showing up here. We'll look at the daily and the weekly. On the daily, that positive action here today is causing that RSI to spike. Notice that it didn't quite make a lower low on that daily candle, but the RSI didn't dip quite as far as it did back here on that first one. So not a true divergence. It's a little bit of what they call a hidden divergence there, but certainly worth noting. The MACD histogram also signaling a potential change in the momentum on the downside. So again, doesn't mean it's like go all in here, off to the races. There's certainly no confirmation of that as of yet, still basically below these moving averages, but it's the first good day one, first good attempt at a potential more upside. So on the shorter time frames, I think there's a little bit of pause that needs to happen. I'm holding my long still. I'm gonna give it some room, but certainly some pause that needs to happen. I think any pullbacks down to this 7K 6,800 level are worth looking at. If it starts to lose that level, at least right away, right? If it starts to drift lower, depends on how it plays out. If it's a quick pullback down to that level, generally negative. If it's kind of a sideways drift, and then you see kind of a quick spike in reversal higher. Not so bad. So it always is price action. Just kind of depends on how the price trades. Best case scenario, I think, would be a little bit of tight action right up in this zone, and then that'll kind of let things reset on the 1 hour chart. 4 hour has plenty of room to run, and if it can sit tight here for a few candles, that'll set up some potential action on the way up here. But for now, it's a nice green trade. Might certainly take some of that off the table, because hey, in this market, when you get those profits, you got to bank them. I was short earlier this week. I closed my short out a little bit early, just because I was not being aggressive. I was just not being patient. I was just like, yeah, it's in the green. I got some profit on this. I'm going to get it out of the way. And then, of course, you had that big spike lower. And so I certainly left a lot on the table on that short trade to the downside. But I think being flat was good because it allowed me to start stepping in yesterday, as opposed to still riding that short lower. And then would have been a lot harder to go from short to long on that reversal. So I was kind of short, flat for a couple days, and then started to step in yesterday. So all in all, it's all good. It works out either way, right? It's all the same. It just balances out. All right, so that's BTC here. Just real quick, while we let some more folks, looks like people are coming in. I'm trying to keep up here with the comments. Some good comments on here about that 7,200 CME gap was filled. Now we can go back to 5K. I like I said at the beginning, I wouldn't be mad about that. Now, I think there's a point where we don't want to see, obviously Bitcoin drops too much. I mentioned this in my last live stream. Let me go to that real quick. If it drops too much, then this whole thing's going to start to look like a big ugly double top. So the dips are nice. I personally would like to see some lower prices into the new year. That way I can buy after the new year and delay some tax payments until 2021. But we'll see how Bitcoin does. I'm certainly not going to, at this point, it's like at the end of December. I'm just going to wait. Whatever the price does at this point doesn't matter. But certainly would like to see like another test of 6K or something. I'd buy there. But 6,400, hey, what more can you want? 6,400, it was at almost 14,000 middle of the year, and everybody was wishing and praying and hoping that it would pull back because they missed this parabolic move. Well, there you go, 6,400. It's a lot harder to buy after a big downtrend and scariness at 6,400 than it is to buy on the way up, right? We all want to try to ride that momentum on the way up. But looking at that weekly chart here, a weekly RSI so far is holding that 40 level, which is a key level. Bull zone remains in place. But again, the moving averages have crossed bearish for the first time in a long time. Last time they were bearish was prior to that big run up in April. So they did cross bearish a couple months ago. See if we can get a recovery here again. That basically mean Bitcoin price back over 8,200 or so on the weekly chart. So that's it for the BTC. A couple of very nice green candles, some good action on the part of the buyers. Short sellers are getting squeezed to heck right now, so we'll see how much further this can go before we get a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a pullback. All right, so I did post a tweet here before I went live talking about the new nodeinsiders.com site is finally live. Some of you guys may know we've been in a rebuild mode for that site here for the last month and a half or so, 2 months. It's been a lot of work. There's still a lot more to go. I've got a backlog of features I'm going to be adding and kind of new cool tools and all that good stuff. But for now, the core features are there. What's live now is a big improvement over what we had previously. So I think you guys will appreciate it, like all that. We still have the alerts. And the automated watch list. Of course, you get access to all the video courses. Now, I am going to open some of these up, so you don't have to be a subscriber to get some of these, so you can go check those out. I'll post some links. But there's a lot more cool stuff that was added. We got the trading bot status added. You've got a trading bot list. We've got this trending list, which will show us kind of the leading names versus Bitcoin and all that. So next big step is going to be doing a lot of kind of tutorials and got to redo a lot of that site training to make it specific to the new site. So I'll go, I'm going to be working on that here probably after the holiday. And of course, pricing is the same. So all those cool new features for basically the same price as the other site. So there's a link in the description. You can go check that out. But since we got that live, let's just use it and see what is happening here. So looking like the trade bot finally went flat here. It's basically been short. If you would have caught this earlier this morning, it was said short since the 14th. The daily strategy is still showing short, but I expect that that's going to flip over to at least flat here pretty soon. So, and what that is here is that trading bot is basically this proprietary indicator, right? The BMI created a trading strategy around that here, and it looks like here's the 4 hour saying go and close there. Daily won't have anything here, but you can see there is a short signal there. That's when the daily went short. Here's the short signal for the 4 hour. So that was a pretty good signal there. And this strategy works very well in trending markets when you get those big moves. Obviously, during the sideways chop, you're going to get a lot of whipsaw. So here it said closed short, then it went short again, then it closed it, then it went short again. But that last one certainly paid off well. So we'll see. The goal is always, can I beat the bot? Can I beat the trade bot? But so basically, I'm showing this chart because I know some of you guys have asked, hey, can I get that indicator? Can I get that trading strategy? It is locked down, but the next best thing is basically it's published here. So the BMI indicator shows up there, and then the trading bot strategy for the 4 hour and the daily charts show up here, and it'll tell you how long it's been long or short or flat and all that good stuff. The next big one here is the bot status. Let's see what the bot status is looking like. I basically run that same algorithm against some of the top cryptos, and so let's see what we got here. I'm just gonna sort this out. I'm guessing, and this is all BTC pairs, so this is versus Bitcoin, which there's very few strong names versus Bitcoin right now. Atom, EOS is not weak. Let's see here. Atom, that one's been strong for some time now. I think it's, let's see here. Atom BTC, yeah, I mean, it's kind of been in pullback mode, but this one's been strong for some good while here versus Bitcoin, bouncing off of that breakout point here as of late. So still going, but we'll see how it does with Bitcoin kind of starting to resurge here a little bit. Some of these, what tends to happen is a lot of those names that have been the strong runners while Bitcoin was pulling back, you finally see some profit taking and rotation out of those names. Not always, but very often we see that. They were kind of the big runners, the port in the storm, if you will. And then when the market starts to bounce, they tend to lag, which is kind of interesting the way that happens. So Atom, probably the only one right now that's okay. Tezos, the daily status is still long, but everything else for the most part relatively weak. Now if we go to the other list here, the trending names, OST has been on the list. Mana, there's Decentraland, had a good little move yesterday. Stratus, Burst, oh my god, name from yesteryear. Theta's been on a nice little run. If you go to Theta here, let's go check out that chart. It's been on a nice little run here for the last few days. I'm going to go to the daily chart. What I like to point out on this guy here is it's finally breaking out over some longer term base here that's been building. If you look at, I mean, if we zoom out, Theta has been in this big pullback, right, for a long time and well off the highs. But since July, it's just been forming this big base, clear level of support being established. But on the upside, there was some resistance that just couldn't break above, and it's finally starting to get above that, around that 1300 sat level on the BTC pair. So definitely one to keep an eye on. You're also seeing volume starting to spike as it moves out of range. So all positive things. We'll see if this one can continue. Again, smaller cap name, so it doesn't take a whole lot for them to push these guys. This is the daily chart. I'd be watching that one. What else here? Let's see, Wanchain. We looked at Atom, Tomo. So a few names showing up here on the trending list. Now the trending list puts a little bit more weight on the daily chart. It looks at multiple time frames, but it does put more weight on the daily chart. There's Tomo. Tomo's been on a tear for quite some time. It's already extended right now. Near term needs to pause, which It's only up 115%. Let's see here. WAN chain, I've noticed, been on the list here lately. Stratus. Let's see what else we got here. Stratus edging out. Nice little breakout on Stratus a few days back. Still going. Just getting some good follow through here. Big volume spike. Pulled right back to that breakout point. Looks like it's starting to bounce back up here. So let's see here. It looks like it's already hit the next target. So if you look left, Stratus, the next target is basically where price is at right now. This little bounce here. And then from there, I mean, man, this guy's just so beaten down. Look at this long, flat base that's put in. Like so many of these alts. I mean, we've been saying this for the last few months here on these live streams. We've been looking at some of these alts just like they're dead, but they're putting in these big bases. And once they start to push above that, you can see some pretty nice little runs on these guys. So I'd be keeping an eye on some of those. I mean, this is the next major target, right, if it continues to move. That's a big move, but if we're looking at some longer-term targets, talking 60-70% to move up from here to that next level. So Strat, I have to keep an eye on that one there. What was the other one? And then I'll get to some of the names on your list here. That's probably it. Waves. Yeah, Waves has been on a tear. What's going on with Waves? Anybody know? I know Waves was like, oh my god, it was just getting crushed for so long. But the volume on this recently is just crazy. I noticed the last few days just been spiking like crazy. Don't know what drove that. I'm sure there's some news or something that I missed. All right. So what exchange is good for someone wanting to play the short side who lives in the U.S.? Yeah, that's the challenge with many of the margin exchanges is they don't allow non-U.S. persons to trade. I believe in the U.S., probably the only one, correct me if I'm wrong, is Kraken. I'm wondering if some of the ones that do allow U.S. will allow margin on some of those, like Bitstamp or some of these others. Obviously, you know, Binance has margin now. There's Bitfinex and Deribit. There's BitMEX if you want to go that path. I mean, there's those, but obviously the rules are non-U.S. and people from a whole bunch of other nations. So there's just yeah, and so with Binance, it's a good point. You're right. You don't have if you don't what do you call it, validate your account, then there's just a limit on how much you can put in and withdraw and all that fun stuff. So it's just, you know, it's a personal preference. I mean, some people I know are still doing it. You have to use VPN and all that stuff to get behind it. But if that's your purview, then, you know, by all means, it's, you know, I think it's just crazy that some of the regulation, the SEC has just really forced some of these companies to do that kind of stuff. But hey, there's a few thoughts there for you. But if you want to keep it kind of up in the open, you won't have as many options on what you can short, but Kraken is a good U.S. exchange that lets you short a few things like ETH and Monero, I think Bitcoin Cash, a few others. But there you go. All right, let's see here. So let's go to some of these names here. Let's start with some of the big caps here because they've just been lagging Bitcoin for some time. I mean, look at ETH. Yikes. This is the daily chart of ETH, just getting smacked here. Remember this support level we were watching here a few days back? Just sliced right through that and no bottom to be found. Just versus Bitcoin. This is ETH BTC. Clearly losing ground once it broke out. I was watching this one because it was starting to range out, and I was thinking, hey, this is definitely one to watch for a potential breakout, but I was not going to preempt it, especially with Bitcoin being kind of weak as it was. I was not going to preempt it, but I was certainly watching it. It looks like it broke to the downside. We'll see if we can get some bounce action here. Oversold levels, definitely hitting some oversold levels on that 4-hour chart. But if we go back to that daily chart, I mean, it's kind of in no man's land now. I mean, the next major support was right here around that 1880, slicing right through that. next major support 17.6 or so. So am I accumulating different alts for the long term at these levels, or only focused on trading them? No, I'm only focused on trading them. As far as speculative accumulation, there's a few that I've got my eye on, but any new adds to kind of long-term stuff at this point is just Bitcoin for me. I am buying some other things, but just because I like the project, and it's going to be more like trying things out and checking it out, like Mana, for example. But when it comes to alt, it's quick trades for me right now. You know, and I say quick. I'm not scalping like 5-minute charts or anything crazy like that. I say quick. I may be in it for a day to 4 days or something, right? So it's a relatively quick trade. And it just depends. I mean, mostly using the 4-hour charts for those. Sometimes I use the 1 hour if it's a quick trade. So there's ETH. Let's go look at ETH USD here. Now, clearly not quite as well. It's still negative looking. I mean, it's just bouncing off oversold levels, but you know, it's got the big green bar because of what Bitcoin's doing here today. So on that way up, first level to be watching on ETH, about 140 is what I'd be watching. If it can clear that, then 153 is the next big one here. Yeah, you know that. So let's go back to that BTC chart here, because you know there's two ways to look at this, right? As far as longer term charts, yeah, you can look at this as just one big double top potentially forming with this lower high here, and keep in mind, right, that top was almost exactly at the 618 retracement bounce, right? So if you look at the big move from the 2018 bear market to the low that we saw last year, the exact low to the wick top that we saw this year, right? That took you right to the 618 retracement, the golden ratio there. And so, yeah, was that the top? Was this a double top? I mean, there's certainly a case to be made for that, but there's nowhere near confirmation of that yet. The alternative is, if you look at, let's go to the weekly chart here just to zoom out, right? Are we forming a big kind of symmetrical pattern here? We're going to see a higher low, and then things will coil up, heading right into the halvening, which is right around here. And so that'd be interesting to see if we start to bounce. Now, getting over that 11K level would be a big breakout. So if you start to bounce over that, that's a big breakout. That's a bull break out of this symmetrical pattern. And at that point, I would expect that prior high would be taken out, or at least matched, right? You probably run right up to that point. So that's what I'd be watching on that weekly. Yeah, you can use, so if you take the log off, it depends on your time frame. If you're looking at the weekly charts, the log's just going to jack your chart up, right? Like, it's not going to make any sense. So from a charting perspective, like from a technical analysis, if you're looking at, you know, trend lines and all that stuff, you got to use log because it neutralizes some of the move so that it's more of a percentage based move. Because at the end of the day, when you're trading, that's kind of your basis, right? You're looking at everything in terms of percentages. So if something moves up 10% versus 5%, you know, it's all relative to the price. If you know, if Bitcoin was trading at $1,000 and it went up $100, that's a 10% move. Bitcoin goes up $100 now, like, it's not that big of a deal, right? So you got to keep log on when you're doing that sort of thing. But when you'll find that once you get to shorter time frames and all that, it doesn't quite matter as much. Notice how it doesn't really move as much, and that's because it's looking at the price and the change in magnitude over the price. So I just have it on by default, generally speaking. All right, let's go look at some of this here before we move on to your guys' list here. I'm going to keep going down the big cap names here. So looking at XRP, just giving back this entire move that it had here. Big break of support, so many of these names. And again, this is versus Bitcoin, right? So many of these names have just been red for so long versus Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been red, and so it just kind of shows you how rough it's been. And the bearishness has certainly been felt. A lot of folks are just kind of giving up on crypto, giving up on crypto trading, on longer term holds. And, you know, that's understandable because of the crazy action that we've seen on some of these valuations that have been reset. And so this USD pair, big reversal. I'd be keeping an eye on it here now. I mean, that's a big volume spike. So volume is important at the extremes. When you get those very quick and sharp moves, reversals, volume's very important at the extremes. On the way up to, after a very tall, you know, long move, if it spikes near the highs, you tend to start to see distribution, that sort of thing. So I'd be watching this one. But first resistance is going to be that 21 cent level that it most recently broke down from. So if you're looking at a bounce, that's kind of your first target on the way up. And then these moving averages is what I'd be looking at next after that. So if you're looking at a quick trade or something, that's probably what I'd be watching here. Sorry about my jumping around. There it goes. Sorry, I'm reading the comments here. Raven. Yeah, we'll look at Raven. Let's do ETH here. Cool. I'm going to do Litecoin real quick here. I'm just going to stick through a few of the bigger caps and then I'll cycle back. So this is Litecoin USD. Man, it's crazy to think Litecoin was 36 bucks earlier today. I was watching that going, $36. Holy smokes. It's just, oh, man. What a move, right? I mean, last year we were looking at $22 Litecoin and just ran up to 137 and dang, 37 bucks. Kind of tempting. Maybe I'll pick up some Litecoin here instead of Bitcoin. How's LTC BTC look? Sheesh. The smackening. The great smackening of the Litecoin. Ay, ay, ay. All right, let's see here. EOS. Is EOS bouncing yet? Still range bound. I'm watching this one along with that little range that it's had. This one held up a little bit better versus Bitcoin compared to some of those other names that we were looking at. So yeah, definitely be watching now. You could say it is a little bit of a head and shoulders here, but it's range bound at the lows. At this point, I'd just wait until it broke out of range one way or the other if you wanted to tighten up the lower end. Now that it reversed off of that point, that lines up with this September low, so I'd be watching that. But on the way up, you know, got to see it break out of this range for that daily chart to really start looking good. EOS USD. Yeah. All right. Let's go take a look at Raven. Raven, spike it all over the place here the last few days. Yeah, had that big move back in, early December. You can almost argue for a little bit of a falling wedge here, but I think if it bounces, it's just going to be an oversold bounce because there's a lot of overhead. The volume on that reversal is just going to take a lot of work to overcome. And I mean, you know, this big candle, right? The Matic candle that we saw when Matic took a smackening that day, Raven got hit pretty hard. And just no bounce in sight since then. So that's going to be some tough action to overcome. But you could argue for a little bit of a falling wedge right here, starting to really constrict as it hits the narrow part. And on a bounce, the way I like to trade these is I tend to use fib levels as kind of bounce targets. And so I look at the impulse wave, which clearly the Matic candle is a good impulse wave there. And then you look at the low on the bounce here or on the breakout. So 382 and then 618 would be your first targets on the bounce. After that, I mean, you're really asking for a lot for it to do one of these, right? So it could, but at that point, I would expect the momentum to start slowing down and maybe tighten up stops and all that good stuff. So that's what I'd be looking at for on the Raven side. Raven BTC. All right, let's see here. We looked at this here, but I was wondering, 4 hour. Dang, still bearish as heck out there, man. Everything versus Bitcoin's short on the 4 hour except for, hold on here. Let me take these guys off. Take that off. Here. So EOS, Tezos, Atom, which we already know, And Tezos, let's go to Tezos because the almighty Tezos has been on a tear, but I think it's finally due for a pause. I actually posted a tweet on that yesterday talking about it's looking toppy to me. I was seeing some signs of distribution on that 4-hour chart. And by that I mean, look at this volume here, as it spikes higher and higher. And then you start seeing a little bit of a fake out, breakout, really quick reversal. Look at the selling volume there, much higher than the buying volume. And just all signs of distribution. Now the daily trend still, was looking fine, but 4-hour view was, suspect. And so yesterday I was looking at this support level as kind of the level to be watching. And if it broke out, then that negated that and it was off to the races again. But it looks like it's finally breaking lower. And so down to the next support level here. Then below that, so I'd really just kind of zoom out to the daily chart and look at the moving averages and some key fib levels as potential retracement zones. But looks to be done for now. And when I say done, I think it's just consolidation, but who knows? We've seen it before in this space where a lot of these just give up the whole move. If you look at some fib levels, even the 382 takes you right to that line, and that's a good breakout point. That was this prior breakout point back here. So that's lines up nicely with the 382. That'd be the first stop I'd be looking at on the Tezos. Yep. And like I said, like a lot of these, they're kind of the port in the storm when everything else is really rough, and then when the market gets going again, they just fade them. We just see that a lot. I think Cosmos might be another one, right, where it's been a nice run, starting to get a little choppy up here. Now this one doesn't look quite as toppy. This one still looks pretty strong, but 4-hour view, there's a little bit of choppy action showing up here, and maybe it's done too. Let's see. Some guy wants to look at Monero. Not some guy, not like any random guy. Some guy. Some guy. All right, let's see here. Monero. So this is Monero BTC here. And what I'm watching here is just, I know the price spikes in and around that level, but that little zone right there, it's got to start closing above that. Got to start closing above that for me to start liking it here. And for a while, the privacy names were bouncing off the lows here. They were kind of hitting the radar, but poor Monero losing ground versus Bitcoin again. And the longer term chart just not pretty for Monero. Look at this. And it's too bad. This is like a project that personally I like, and I want to see this project do well and succeed, right? But just look at this, man. Apparently nobody wants the Monero tokens. Like some more dollar-wise. What's it back down to? Ooh, back down to $47. Man. Maybe double bottom here. Maybe. If it gets back over that 55 level, it'll start to look good. Trading series, yeah, probably not right now. Maybe after the new year. I was kind of focused on some other things, doing the trading strategy this year and the site upgrades. Like they always have projects going. It's hard for me to focus. Always got to look at the charts. All right, let's see here. What's pinning on the alerts? Monero. Hey, look at that. Monero is oversold. EOS. Let's look at the pocket pivots because those tend to be good. Look at early indicators that you may be seeing some potential movement on some of these names here. We looked at EOS. Go. Okay. XRP dollar. The USD pairs I'm going to ignore because they're probably going to flash some pocket pivots because of what Bitcoin's doing today. IOST. Go. Let's go look at some of those. That's true though. Fluffy Pony was kind of the, he was the face, the voice, the visionary there. Maybe he's gonna start off his next one. IOST, this is USD. I'm gonna keep an eye on names versus Bitcoin right now because USD pairs are all going to be drifting lower with price action in Bitcoin lately, but this one's interesting. Still ranging. It was looking like it wanted to edge out here a few days back, but just kind of pausing. Go, let's go see GoChain. There's a name from yesteryear. GoChain. Oh, breaking out finally. Look at that line in the sand right there. Oh man, I think I drew that during the last live stream, and when it broke out, wow, it broke out with some force. Boom. Big volume spike on that guy. Since the breakout point here, how much is that up? It's not too bad. It's only up 59%. Nice move. Nice move and go. It looks like it's bumping right up to the next level right there. So let's see if it can. I mean, it is already pausing, setting up potentially for the next leg up. Man, but look at the long-term chart on Go. Wowzers. VeChain. VeChain. Oh, poor VeChain. Still drifting lower. This is VeChain BTC here, and we highlighted that bearish divergence last week. We were looking at that. I was saying it probably is done. And yeah, still drifting lower. A lot of bearish momentum on this guy versus Bitcoin right now. It's just selling off. And again, one of the telltale signs again was the big volume at the top. The biggest volume of the entire move at the top. You see a big wick. Just, I know it's a green candle, but generally speaking, that's kind of signs of exhaustion buying, especially when you get the big bearish divergence showing up. And it's, you know, it's not always a sell signal, but it's definitely a, hey, pay attention sign. And sure enough, once it broke these moving averages, just so far can't recover. It's right at support now, so we'll see if it can show a little life here at this level. I mean, if you like it, this is where you might want to look at it, and you know, it's don't have to give it much, right, to the downside to know that nope, that was wrong. So I'd be watching it here maybe. All right. You know, and I was scanning the charts the other day, just looking at a whole bunch of names, just the bigger caps, just a lot of stuff that I kind of keep on my watch list here, and man, it was tough to find a chart, an altcoin chart that wasn't just getting smacked. I mean, just everything was rough versus BTC, a lot of bearish action. So, man, we're due for a good bounce here. So let's go back to BTC here real quick. How's Bitcoin doing? Bitcoin's bouncing right up to that 22 EMA on the daily chart, 1 hour chart, seeing some volume here. I don't know. I think when I jump off the live stream, I might close out part of the long trade. Reload on a dip, see how it goes from there. It was a good move, but you know, the bigger trend still favors the sellers. But hey, this is finally not red. It was red, red, red yesterday, red across the board. All time frames are red. Now it's so strong on the 4 hour, it's blue here. Look at this. Oversold alerts are just spiking. It's usually a good contrarian indicator. Speaking of contrarian indicators, did you see that tweet yesterday or 2 days ago? Peter Schiff talking about Bitcoin, millennials are going to lose everything, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, there's the bottom. Time to cover your shorts. Oh, that's kind of funny how it worked out, because the next day, here you go, Bitcoin up 8%. Oh, very nice. Very nice. I'm going to cycle through some of these names here real quick. Looking at Link here. Link BTC. It's still not coming back here. Let me clean that up there. Oops. Don't want that. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, I'd be watching these moving averages. That's how I'm going to keep an eye on Link. I mean, there's a big hammer reversal there, but couldn't even follow through on the next candle. Generally, when you see a hammer reversal, you want to see the next candle close in the green, and up here at least couldn't do that. Still below the 10 EMA on that 4 hour view, so until that changes, probably nothing to do yet. Beam. Somebody mentioned Beam last time. Beam. It's actually a nice little pullback to the breakout point. I had that breakout, pause in, see if we can pause, you know, and bounce off of this level. Not a bad level to watch. I'd be watching the, let's say I entered here. The way I would do this is Probably wouldn't give it much below, you know, the current lows there. There was a big outside reversal engulfing candle here. So if it fails there, then you know it's done. So I'd probably give it that much at the most. And then, you know, your risk reward ratio, for it to even be worthwhile, it's going to have to break out, right? So, like here's a 2.0, which I generally will look for trades that are 2.5 at least, but I prefer 3 or more. So, you know, here's 3.0. Looking at a, you know, it'd need to move 13% for it to be worth it, which on a name like Beam, it could do that. So. Pundi. Oh, that's ETH. Do they trade a USD pair? Since the debut, huh? Definitely oversold. It's in no man's land. Neo. How's Neo doing here? Pivx. You know, I saw Pivx on the trending list yesterday. Pivx, you know, it is holding up relatively well versus Bitcoin here. Speaking of Pivx, have you seen Dash? Yikes. Let's go Dash USD. So there you go, a Dash masternode for 41,000. It's a lot cheaper than it was just a few months ago. Wow. Dash. See if we can finally bounce. There's a lot of volume coming in here. Is that capitulation? Is that all the masternodes saying, forget it, I'll take what I can get for it? Maybe. Maybe. Zcash, since we're looking at these. Zcash pulling back here after a little bit of a good rally action. See if we can. Doesn't seem to be doing much after that though. Kind of just faded that move, breaking down lower versus Bitcoin. Zcash USD. Bouncing with Bitcoin here today, but all in all, the chart's not too good anyway. All right. Guessing that's gonna be it for now. Stellar Lumens. You know, I'm gonna cycle through my watch list here real quick. I'll probably catch some of those that you guys want to look at. I'm gonna see if anything piques my interest. There's ARK. There's BAT. Bitcoin Cash. Very oversold. Binance Coin continues to drift lower here. Looks like it's about to break some big support. If it does, you can see a pretty good spike on Binance Coin. BitTorrent, Dash, Yeesh, Decred. Hey Aaron, we did do EOS. EOS is actually one of the better holdouts right now. Oh, there's Engine. Engine kind of, see if that one can break out of that trend line there. Engine, BTC, E and J. There's EOS, just range bound, but it is bouncing off of the level that it tried to bounce off of in September on the daily chart. You can almost say even this one here in October. So I'd keep an eye on it, but at the end of the day, this daily chart's still bearish. I want to see it get back above at least a candle from 2 days ago, that 3600. ETC, I don't really trade that one anyway. ETH, we already looked at ETH, breaking support. Icon. I mean, look at these charts. We're due for a good bounce. Yeah, it does look like a little head and shoulders there, but I'd wait until that lower support line gives. IOTA, man, IOTA got smacked today. Look at that volume spike on IOTA. IOTA BTC. Link. It's bearish out there. It's cold. There's Mana. Neo. We looked at Neo. OMG. Ontology. Man. Any good looking charts out there, guys? There's Theta. Tron. Wanchain. Was Wanchain on here? I think I saw it on here. It was. Yeah. We'll see. Waves. Don't know what's going on there, but waves. XTZ. I think XTZ is done for now. That daily chart is looking like it might be rolling over. There's Walton. Remember Walton? Damn. Stellar Lumens. So looking at the Stellar Lumens. Yeah, same story. A lot of these are really spiking. They're getting a little stretched from their 10 EMA. Notice the way the trend is changing, right? It's kind of accelerating to the downside. As painful as that is, if you're long, those tend to be interesting setups because you tend to get that snapback, and that can kick off a little bit of a bounce rally. So I'll be watching some of those like IOTA and XLM. Beyond a bounce rally, it's anyone's guess. Most of these longer-term charts still look pretty rough. We looked at Monero, Ripple, Zcash, ZIL, 0x. So 0x looks like it's dipping below that support level I was watching here. Quantum was looking nice last week, giving it up. We looked at Atom. Atom's probably one of the better looking charts out there. Ocean, yeah, Ocean is doing well. There's one. Oh, there's Matic. Anybody holding Matic still? ERD. That one's showing some good relative strength versus Bitcoin's a very low sat name, but hey, there's Dusk. There's Algo. There you have it. The Tika names. TNT. TNT looks ugly. Cryptopia looks ugly. Oh yeah, Monaco. Oh man, it's finally breaking trend. I was gonna say this one's never going down ever again. What else? I mean, you can't ask for better than that. Look at that. But yeah, finally breaking a little trend there. Tezos looks done for now. And that's all, folks. Am I allowed to say that? All right, so let's see here. So going back to Bitcoin here, for those of you that are joining, we were looking at the shorter term time frames here earlier. Big spike off the lows. Very nice move today, followed by a big wick. I mean, just undercut yesterday's support. So if you were using that as a stop, probably got shaken out right there, but then followed through to the upside. Now, clearly, once it got above that 6,700 level, then at that point it was just off to the races. So even if you waited until that point, up pretty good move, 7% on the day. That's a big move for Bitcoin. Up 7% in a few hours is a nice move. And so 4-hour chart, translating it to some good stuff. Followed your response. I know that Peter Swift tweet. I was like, oh, there it is. But I mean, look at how clear this is on the 4-hour chart. Just very tight action, and then big bar just wicked everybody out on big volume and just taken off. So good action here. A little extended on the 1 hour. We'll see if it pauses. I think a little bit of a breather here would be nice, and then that'll give it some legs to potentially set up. But it's right at resistance on this bounce. So was that it? Could be. Is that the end of the move? I mean, that's kind of the next big level there, getting above that into that 7,300 level. And man, we're talking 6Ks and 7Ks. We're off quite a bit from where price was even just a few months ago, even just last month. I mean, last month in November, right? We were, seeing Bitcoin at 9,300, and here it is 6,400 today. So yeah, it's been off quite a bit, and hitting some long-term support here around that 6K level. That mid sixes was really your last big support level. If we look at the move from this low here, you're dancing around that 618 retracement, undercutting it a few times. I don't really use the next level down, but we'll see. So, the broader trend still favors the sellers. I think we're due for a good bounce. There are some bullish cases to be made for a reversal. You've got a, bounce off of support. You've got some bullish divergences showing up, but we're not seeing any confirmation yet. Next level's up, 7,200. And then getting over that 7,600 would be a very positive level to capture here for the bulls. That's been the last big resistance. So bouncing right up to there. Maybe that's where it bounces to and then pauses. We'll see where it goes. But hey, it's good if you're long. Where would you try to catch the next dump? So you're talking if Bitcoin doesn't hold to this 6,500 level, or are you talking shorter term time frames? So if I'm looking at longer term charts, I mean, I really want to see it hold 6K at most, maybe the 5,800 level or so. Below that, man, you can really start making an argument for that big double top. This is the weekly chart. So probably don't want to see it looking at one of those here. The last cycle, did I see the 14 run up as a smaller one for the 20? Yeah, I mean, and if you look at it, we looked at this earlier. I mean, the fact that it came right to the 618 retracement, I mean, almost perfectly. You know, that was kind of a big cycle within this broader wave here. I think some of that was front running for Halvening, excitement, and some other stuff. But I mean, that was a fantastic move that we saw this year, right? And we couldn't have expected for it to just keep blasting right through and create another 2017 style parabolic move. I think after May, after the Halvening, then we have the potential for an organic run that takes us to new highs potentially. Now, of course, the alternative is, it just drifts into the Halvening and then that's it, it's done, just takes out the lows, and then you got a massive double top in place, and then it's good night at that point. Goodbye BTC at 3K. I mean, I don't know if even a dip buy would be good at that point, because it's just going to be very technically broken. So, I do want to see price dip a little bit further into the new year, but I'm not hoping for 3Ks or anything like that. I hope not. I'll just have to go buy me some Libra. Some Apple coin. So yeah, if you look at this here, I mean, you could be forming a big symmetrical pattern. You've got the Halvening. Let me drop a line there. You've got the Halvening right here. And so, you're certainly well into the pattern there. It starts to just drift lower into this lower trend line. I mean, that's 5K basically right there. If you follow the trajectory, 5K is basically right there. So mid 5Ks. We'll see. I think a lot of people would be really scared and maybe start capitulating in the 5Ks. All right. Well, that's probably going to be it for today, guys. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. If you just joined, we covered a few names. We went over a bunch of names here. For those of you that are just joining here, the new site is live. You can get some information on it here, learncryptotrading.info. Gives you a little bit of a preview, but the site is also a little bit of a freemium site now. Before, you had to be a subscriber to even see, kind of what the content was. Now you can see it, but some of this, obviously, the trading bot status and some of this other stuff is going to be locked. The trending list and the alerts are going to be limited. You're only going to get a handful, but it gives you a feel for what's there. And if you go to the education tab, let me log out so I can show you. If you go to the education tab, there's a bunch of videos that I've opened up for open access there. So you can get all of these here. The ones with the little lock are still subscribers only, but I've got a few. I've got some TA videos here. A few that I've posted here that are open, so anyone can go watch those. You can stream them off the site here, this candlestick pattern. So there's quite a few videos that are open now, but obviously people pay for this, so I can't open them all up. So you got to subscribe to unlock the rest of those, and then of course you will join us in the Slack group if you do that. So, all right, my friends. Hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for the comments. Stay positive out there. I know it's kind of crazy with all the wild action, but it is the holidays. Happy holidays to everyone. And hopefully you get to take a little bit of time off, spend some time with friends and family, and enjoy life. So thanks for being here. We'll see you all on the next one.